Welcome back to the Fumbled Out of Bounds podcast, where our motto here is football, football, and more football. Here we go. On this episode of the Fumbled Out of Bounds podcast, the boys chat with PJ, our home Dynasty League's defending champion, and on his way to potentially going back-to-back in the league. We talk about his successes so far. We talk about some surprising fantasy players, and of course, our locks of the week. Here we go. Ready? All right. What's up? Welcome back. We are joined by the wonderful PJ, if you will, Hayes, the reigning champ of the year one University of Fantasy Football Championship. PJ, how you doing, buddy?
Not doing pretty good. And you guys?
Doing good, man. Thank you for joining us. So we thought I might change things up a little bit, ask you a couple questions, go through the usual stuff. Connor and I here never have won a dynasty title. Nice to be in the presence of a winner.
Royalty.
You're 5-1 right now, going into week 7. So going for the 2-peat. So I guess I'll ask my first question. Maybe just open it up. What's going into your mind? I mean, do you think that you have what it takes? I mean, I know you just traded for Rodgers. Maybe talk about your mindset in that trade and sort of maybe a couple other moves you are looking to make, some strategy you might have, pushing to go back to back.
Yeah. So I thought that once I saw Eshaun put up Aaron Rodgers on the trade block, I was like, all right, like I've got to get him, because I didn't want to miss like the window of having like Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, and Travis Kelce. Because I was like, I don't know if those guys like, might be just peaking now and not be the same, 2-3 years from now. So once I saw that Rodgers was up, I first sent Eshaun, I sent him a first and a second to like let him know like I was kind of serious about it.
Sure.
And then he didn't immediately get back. So then, but I mean, I only waited like 30 seconds. So then I added a third, and then he texted me. He's like, all right, sweet. Like, I'll take it. I'm just waiting. I'll wait for like next week because I don't have a QB to start. So then I just threw in Ben on top of it, because I was basically like, Ben's probably gonna be done after the season. He's not even really startable now. So I got Rodgers, which I think gives me a good window, with that core, like I said, of my running backs and Travis Kelce. And so I feel good about it. I didn't really see there being like a QB. My rationale was like, I don't see a QB coming up I'm going to be able to get, and I want a QB now. Mm-hmm. And I just was willing to give up the second and the third to go with it, because I thought about who I drafted this last year with the second and the third, and I was like, I could live without all of those. I could live without those two players. So I knew to gain someone, it's going to cost me at least a first, to draft him, and the second and the third, lets me get Aaron Rodgers now. So
I think you ended up okay with it.
Yeah, I guess so. My next question in terms of quarterbacks, I mean, are you not worried about the Rodgers potentially not playing next year, not being in Green Bay, and then Jalen Hurts? I mean, right now the Eagles have 3 first-round picks. I mean, Howie Roseman loves taking quarterbacks early. Well, maybe we'll see what the Colts end up doing, but I mean, they could take a QB inside the 10. I mean, there's really not a quarterback based on college so far this year that I would take in the first 10 picks, but that's why I'm doing this and not a GM.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really worried about Rodgers leaving, because I think that like he's going to be able to kind of like, he's not going to go to a rebuild if he leaves, I would imagine. And I can't imagine him sitting out if he didn't sit out like last year. So I'm not too worried about that. As far as the Eagles, I don't really see a reason that they would draft someone yet to replace Hurts. Now, I know that being that it's Eagles, people are saying it's not off the table, but I don't see, if there was like a Trevor Lawrence, or like maybe not a Trevor Lawrence, but
yeah,
I don't know, a QB that people thought was like, they're like, hey, like this guy's going to be a guy, then I would maybe be a little bit more worried, but I kind of just don't really see a QB in college right now that's like a surefire.
Yeah.
The only thing that I'm concerned about with Hurts is just that the Eagles don't seem to want him to be the guy for whatever reason that is. Like, they wouldn't commit to him over the offseason. I know they ended up trading Wentz, but then like they went and spent capital on Minshew for what reason? It was like, it made, I don't know, just to be a backup, it didn't make a lot of sense. But if he does stick around, I mean, he's a fantasy god with the rushing, so it'll probably work out this year for you for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. My question, sort of our other league, I know you're doing well there. I mean, are there any sort of maybe older players, whether running back, wide receiver, tight end, that you're sort of maybe looking to add to your team to sort of push you make you a little bit better than the other teams that are maybe 4-2, 3-3 that are trying to compete? Anybody, maybe older? I mean, I know I was trying to get like an Emmanuel Sanders or, maybe even Melvin Gordon or somebody that's a little bit older that might only be relevant, for the next 10 weeks, sort of as like a rental, or, did that thought cross your mind?
It sort of has, because like one guy on my team, like Daryl Henderson, has been like contributing a lot, and I do worry about like his production, after the season. And so being that I'm doing well this year and have a guy who I think is kind of like, really valuable this year, I was kind of thinking about adding someone, but I mean, this isn't really a veteran, but one guy I kind of wanted to get was Joe Burrow. Like I was trying to see if I could trade, like package something along with Baker for Joe Burrow, but I don't know. Baker hasn't looked too good recently, I thought, or at least the fantasy production's not really there. So I don't think now's the right time. But that was kind of one guy I kind of wanted.
The 14 team is such an interesting dynamic. How much more complicated it gets just for depth, because no one has any depth at all. I mean, it's brutal out there. But I think that's going to increase, because there hasn't been a lot of big trades in there, but I think that's going to increase the prices on some of those studs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, having playing, our main league 12 and then the 14, I definitely think the strategy moving forward is a little bit different. I mean, I'm obviously tanking in our first league, but I can afford to do that. But I do agree. I think you will need to be a little bit more aggressive in those bigger leagues, because supply and demand. It's like, okay, you want a running back, well, that means somebody else is losing a running back. So it's a dime a dozen. So I mean, some of the offers that I've tried to send out, I think are, would be a fair offer in a 12-team league. But you look in a 14, it's like, okay, you trade a second round pick in a 14-team league. Well, that's, if it's a late second, that's the 27th pick in the draft versus, you're only trading, maybe the 22nd. So it's a huge gap, I think, in terms of draft pick value, in terms of player value, really evaluating sort of a fair trade on both sides. When you look at those older assets. So I know it's certainly something I've struggled with. I know Connor's 2-4, so he's probably hasn't had to worry about something like that in our 14-team league. But that's at least my approach. But I was just wondering. I mean, you've had success so far in your dynasty career. I didn't know if you maybe had any other tips or something that.
Yeah, I would say the difference in the 14, in the 14-team one for me was I kind of gambled taking Mac Jones, but that like kind of turned out to be like a good pick. But I just wanted, in that league, I wanted more stability at like the quarterback position, because I was like, it is going to be I thought it would be harder to get my hands like on a QB. So right. I was like, I'll let everyone who's in like the carousel of like looking for a QB, like draft QBs and kind of push down like, a wide receiver who, can contribute like to my team more. So that's like why I picked like Baker like in like the 4th round. So I was like, all right, like I'm not gonna let him pass. Like I'm not too excited about having him, but I at least know that like I have a QB who like the team's like committed, like
NFL you can sort of maybe go like a tier down, lose a tier versus somebody as your second quarterback, but you gain a tier in that more skilled position. I get what you're saying. I mean, especially having the experience from playing in the 12 league to the rookie, or to our inaugural draft for the 14-team league. I know I kind of targeted running backs more because I went Josh Allen and then Stephon Diggs, and then Aaron Jones. So I'm like, okay, I definitely need to play to win now, because Aaron Jones is 28. He probably only has a year or two left. So that's sort of, I'm like, okay, if I'm taking running backs, I kind of tried to weigh, sort of the positional scarcity, get some younger guys that I also think are going to compete. So I definitely think there's a whole lot of strategy between 12 and 14, but I'm loving it either way.
I mean, I'm just a fan that PJ is a fellow Swift Lamb truther.
Yeah. He's got, I mean, and it's fun having pieces. I mean, I know, especially, like I said, I'm tanking, but to have a team and, to get to watch Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, guys that are actually like good, to root for it. It makes, that's sort of why people get into fantasy, to watch players and root for players outside of your own team.
It's interesting, PJ, because in your other team, you definitely went with more established studs, and here it seemed you kind of took younger assets that were ascending rather than ones that were necessarily at their peak.
Yeah, then one thing, because I kind of wanted to stay away, I basically wanted to go like get the youngest like proven talent, I thought. So like guys like CeeDee Lamb, I was like, okay, I'm like, I mean, he's only been in the league like a year, but I'm pretty confident like he's going to be like a stud. So I didn't want to go like, with, some unproven guys who are going to be like real boom or bust. But I think so far, like I kind of have hit, with like the younger talent that seems to be kind of on the rise.
CCD Lamb's 32.5 point game on Sunday.
No, I agree. And I definitely think, that sort of played into, going back to our inaugural draft in the 12 team. I mean, you took Justin Jefferson in the 6th round. I mean, what a great pick, that turned out to be, which, I mean, I don't know how much research you did going into that, how much you believed in him, but I do think
research on that was when we went and saw just watching that LSU team that year. I was like, these receivers are like the filthiest football players I've ever seen. And I'm dead serious. Like that is like part of the reason why like I picked him that high and not like a different player. Like that one, I really like. I did not like look up as much like stuff online going into the draft as like I have like learned to do now. That was kind of why I picked him in the 6th round.
Tell him your main draft resource from our first 12 team.
My main draft resource from the first draft was just the NFL 100 list voted on by the players, because I was like, the players know better than like anyone else. So I did use that to like help, and I thought that, I don't know, that was a good resource.
No, I mean, it's worked out well. I mean, I've you did something right, which, I mean, and just sort of going back to that draft, I mean, Justin Herbert in the 10th. I mean, there's a lot of Antonio Gibson in the 12th. So I do think there is some sort of, with the rookie sort of being able to take the long shot, sort of like you said, with Mac Jones. Connor, you got anything else?
Yeah, no, I definitely have a question for PJ. So like, obviously right now your team's peaking. Is this something you're just going to like ride out till the wheels fall off, or do you think that you're going to look to retool?
I mean, to be honest, like the guys like Derrick Henry and Travis Kelce, like I kind of just plan on keeping them till like they retire.
Yeah, there's a guy on your team.
So, but I think that I have like a good young like receiving core, like DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson. I mean, that at least makes it to where like it's not like, I don't think my entire team is gonna fall off at once. Like, like I basically figure, I'll just use like Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Travis Kelce, and now Aaron Rodgers. Just kind of ride that until it gets to the point where I have to retool. And then luckily I'll still have, hopefully DK and Justin Jefferson will still be top assets that, at that time will still only be like, 26 or something, not too old.
Do you think your team would look a lot different if ETN didn't get hurt?
I mean, yeah, like last year, like, yeah, like having three like top 8 running backs is like so big. I don't think that's really like a make or break thing, because I'm not even convinced that like, I don't know what the coaching plan is down in Jacksonville, but like,
I don't think
nobody does.
I don't think
I mean, James Robinson is still good. Like,
oh, he's awesome.
I think even if he got half the touches, I still think he would like produce. But yeah, obviously it helps. I mean, because I think he's like top 7 in like touchdowns for running back. Like, I mean, he's having a good season too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Sure.
I had a question. So I guess just sort of keep the ball rolling. Any sort of teams you've seen through the first, we're rolling in week 7. Any NFL teams that you are surprised by? Whether good or bad players, fantasy, good or bad. You got any maybe some guys we should look out for? What's on your mind?
And I'm kind of interested to see like how which rookie QBs end up being good, which I think the Mac Jones has like looked sharp in the stuff I've seen so far. I mean, the Jets like have kind of been rough, I've thought. One team I want to know like if they're gonna like be legit or not really is like the Browns. And I know that they're banged up now, but like I think that like they kind of came in with like high expectations, and then they like won a few games, and then now they're kind of on like a bit of a slide. That was kind of one team I wanted to see like if they're going to take the next step or not. It's gonna be hard to judge this week, being that they're so banged up. But I'm interested to see like what they do the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think the biggest thing right now is you look at these year 3 or 4 quarterbacks, the Lamar, Josh Allen, and Baker class. I don't know if the Browns really believe in Baker. I mean, with Stefanski, with the chunt backfield, they're definitely a run-first team. So, I mean, sort of, I don't even know if you want to go pay top-end quarterback money for Baker. I mean, I'm not sure. They've invested a lot of money in offensive line. They obviously love running the ball. They love playing defense, which obviously they're a little banged up. They got could use some secondary help. But yeah, no, I'm with you. The Browns are a great call. I think they're 3-3 right now. They got a game, away at Denver, short week, starting Case Keenum tomorrow night, Thursday night football. Yeah, and they're in a tough division. I mean, the Bengals, which I'll bring up, the Bengals are the Bengals good?
I think so.
They're another one that falls into that I don't know
Yeah,
category.
I mean, I was in on Zach Taylor when they hired him, and I was out. He might be reeling me back in. I'm still not convinced on the defensive end, on the defensive side of the ball, but Jamar Chase is legit. You guys think he's dynasty wide receiver one now? What does he have to do to overtake Jefferson?
I don't even know if Jefferson's.
Okay, then who's wide receiver one?
I feel like it's a very fluid thing because it just changes. Like,
yeah,
you can argue DK is good before, like, the Titans got confused. It was AJ Brown. Hopkins is still throwing up numbers. Devontae's consistent.
I'm saying I think DK just because, like, I don't know, like if DK is still like he's so physical, and when Russell Wilson's back, like it's hard for me to not think like if I could pick any wide receiver in the startup draft that to pick someone other than DK. But I will say, like, for an older guy, I'd probably like Devontae Adams. I'd put them kind of like 1 and 2.
So consistent. He's just a consistent, like, 15 to 18 point a week guy, like clockwork almost. The one team, you put it best on Sunday, saying that the Cardinals and the Browns was like the F-word bowl to see who was actually legit. And the Cardinals are good. It'll be interesting as they go throughout their division with all the division games, all that kind of stuff. They play the Rams again, all that kind of stuff. That'll be interesting. The Bengals were the team that came to mind for me, though. Just to see how good they actually are.
Yeah, I mean, I think offensive line was a big question going into it. Joe Mixon has looked good, stayed relatively healthy, at least for Joe Mixon standards. Tyler Boyd, I don't know what the hell happened to him, man. I really thought Cincinnati was going to be able to sustain 3 wide receivers. Not convinced by that anymore. Joey B, when he's on his feet, has looked good. Just sort of tying into the Browns. That division is tough, man. I mean, the Steelers, it's never an easy win. Ravens are probably, top 1, top 2 team in the AFC right now. So back to the Browns point, I'm with you. I'm not sure what I think of the Browns either.
But they did just lose Ronnie Stanley.
Yeah, Staley. Yeah.
Stanley.
Whatever.
Yeah,
they did. But they have best record in the AFC. They have 17 players on IR.
It's stupid.
John Harbaugh, good football coach.
Good football coach.
Yeah, my team that I want to talk about is the Dolphins. I don't know if you saw today, Peter, but apparently a trade for Deshaun Watson might come down this week, which, I feel like is old news at this point. I'm not sure it's actually going to happen, but they're 1-5. They just lost to Urban Meyer and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Urban's still over there, and by Big Ben, just, doing whatever to, the lasses across the pond. But yeah, I mean, the Dolphins, I thought if you go back to the first episode when we were doing the over-under, we all took the over win total of like 9.5. And me, Shane, and Connor talked about this, and we're like, man, that looks really bad right now because they're 1-5. They play, and, the Jets are the Jets, and the Patriots, you want to think they can go 1-1 against them. They just haven't looked good. I know Tua is sort of, is he the answer? Isn't he the answer? So there's just too many question marks for me there.
Tua and Baker are extremely similar in my mind. Like, I don't think either of them at this point are going to win you a football game, but they need to definitely have the cast around him. Like, I think if you put Tua on the Browns, it'd be a similar result to what they're getting with Baker. And maybe that's a hot take, but I don't know. Since Baker's rookie year, I don't think he's improved that much.
Yeah, one thing, and so this is another question because you kind of compared someone to Baker. I was wondering do you think that Jalen Hurts and Baker are like, is there a big gap between those two quarterbacks? Because I was like, I didn't see that there's that big of a gap. And I thought that the Browns are a better team than the Eagles, but Baker seems to get, like, they committed way harder to him than it seems like the commitment the Eagles gave to Hurts.
I have a harder question for you. Would you rather have Daniel Jones or Baker Mayfield?
Are we talking fantasy or like NFL?
NFL.
Ah, man, that is tough.
I'm saying Baker.
I'm saying if you put both of them on the Browns, which one would you rather have?
I think I'd rather have Daniel Jones.
Really?
I hate myself for just saying that.
Sneaky athletic.
I hate
Sneaky
myself.
Athletic.
Dude, he had like an 85-yard touchdown run until he tripped over himself last.
That sniper hit him from the roof.
Exactly. No, I don't know. That's a good question. I think Daniel Jones is more athletic than Baker. I think
Who has a better arm?
I think Baker might have a better arm.
That's the wrong answer.
Okay.
Yeah, we see I think there's a bias there.
No, there's no bias there.
No bias from the resident Giants fan.
No, I would rather have like Baker's. I think Baker's more accurate, but I think Daniel Jones.
So answer the question. Who would you rather have
I was
as
just
the Browns
sitting here-
quarterback?
As the Browns quarterback, I think that because Daniel Jones is not afraid to push the ball down the field, I think their offense would be taken to a different level. I think it would be better.
Yeah, maybe Odell Beckham Jr. becomes relevant for the first time in like 3 years.
Eli made Odell.
Yeah, well, you got another Odell than in East Rutherford with KT, or excuse me, the Joker. Did I say that right?
Young Joker.
Young Joker. Excuse me, Mr. Joker, if you ever listen to this, I'm sorry. So Connor, PJ, any players you guys are been impressed by, disappointed with, fantasy or in real life?
I gotta say Derrick Henry, even though everyone expects him to be good, I just still think like, especially like after like seeing like his last performance, like it's still kind of like mind blowing how good he is.
Yeah, a guy that big and that strong should not be able to move that fast. I don't know, man. It is crazy because, I mean, I don't know if you play any redraft, but everybody's like, oh, CMC, Dalvin Cook, that's consensus number 1, number 2. And that was, I think, Henry's biggest flaw is he was never really much of a pass catcher. But I don't know, the last few Titans games I've watched, a little bit, he's catching balls out of the backfield, and, he's got the strength and size to run through people and pick up 3, 4, 5 yards. And it's really incredible. I'm sure he obviously worked on in the offseason, but to see a guy with that ability at 28, which, might even be, a lot of people consider the sort of on the way down in dynasty. I mean, he's the number 1 dynasty running back 2 years in a row. I mean, that's certainly unprecedented.
I'm thinking Derrick Henry's one, but the other one, I saw this tweet today. I forgot who it was from, but they kind of mentioned how this year's Lamar Jackson is better than his MVP year's Lamar Jackson. And it's kind of true. Because, I mean, he's playing out of his mind right now. The other one that came to mind was Dak. I think Dak is just, and as a Giants fan, it pains me to say this, he's unbelievable. He's so good. I just am sad that Mike McCarthy is, and happy in the same sentence, going to lose them a playoff game just for his antics. But
chicken shit football, Mike McCarthy needs to stop.
How do you call?
Needs to stop.
PJ, did you watch that game, or you were out of town, right?
Out of town.
Oh my dude,
it
was bad. You need to go back and watch it. It was ridiculous. My, I guess, most surprising, I would say Cooper Kupp. I think,
shouldn't be surprising though. But
well, so my point being is that I think everybody sort of thought when they went and got Stafford that he was going to get an uptick. And obviously Cam Akers goes down, which, is terrible. Wish him all the best. Not that he's ever going to hear this, but as a Bucs fan, prayers up to the Rams player. That's a dumb joke. Anyway, but you have Robert Woods, you have Tyler Higbee. I really thought Cooper Kupp was going to be more like an ancillary piece, and Robert Woods was going to be the guy to take over that wide receiving core. But Cooper Kupp, man, I mean, every week he's just so consistent. 11 catches, gets you 115 yards. I mean, week in, week out, he's been very surprising me. I thought he was going to be good, but to me, he's exceeded expectations tremendously.
I'm trying to think of the other one. I mean, Mike Williams.
Yeah, Mike Williams has been good too.
Resident apartment favorite. Mike Williams in the 12th of redraft and best ball was the steal of the year. Someone else that I'm happy to see doing well is Deebo Samuel, just because, I mean, he torched Florida every year. And I was like, this guy's got to be good. And I was happy he came back and was good. I'm trying to think of surprising in a bad sense.
Yeah, mine for me is easy. Pretty chalk. I'm gonna say Allen Robinson. I think he's like wide receiver 50 on the year or something like that in redraft, which is terrible because I thought the mindset, or, the way people viewed him in the fantasy football realm is pretty much just quarterback proof. Like, it doesn't really matter who's playing quarterback. He's going to go out and get his receptions. I mean, the dude hasn't had a good quarterback ever. I mean, he was with Christian Hackenberg at Penn State, and then he went to Blake Bortles at Jacksonville. I mean, he's never had a good quarterback. I mean, obviously they won playoff games with Trubisky, but and I still think Trubisky could be a good quarterback. MVP, Mitch Trubisky. But yeah, I mean, I think Justin Fields is arguably, not even arguably, the best quarterback he's played with, and he just has not gotten the ball. I don't know if Fields isn't finding him, but you think you have a mobile quarterback, can get outside the pocket, can get his head downfield. You have a good X wide receiver in Allen Robinson to stretch the field, and he just hasn't produced at all. And you figure in redraft, you take him 4th, 5th round. You probably took him 4th, 5th round in Dynasty Startup, and he, is 28. He signed next year to stay in Chicago. Whether or not he knew they're going to take a quarterback, I don't know. But it's been very surprising for me, and thankfully I don't own any shares, but he's too talented to be producing at the level he's producing right now.
I agree. I'm just trying to find a surprising bad player. I mean, the two that come to mind, but they're injuries. Simon Fair is just
Holiday.
No, not Galladay. No, Galladay.
Well, Galladay's
has glass
outside of his injury still been disappointing.
Glass hamstring. He's only played one game really.
Yeah,
and it was the Saints, and he did well. I mean, where he was fully healthy and played. Two surprising ones just because of injuries. I'm probably not going to draft for the foreseeable future, which are McCaffrey and then Kittle. Unfortunately for Kittle, I love Kittle. I think he's so much fun, but he cannot stay out of the injury room. And same thing with McCaffrey. I mean, they put a lot of miles on him those first couple of years, and it's the same thing. So those are probably my two. Now, PJ, you're not in our little ATS fun pool, pick'em pool party thing.
Yeah. So basically, we do our locks of the week. Not sure how often you listen to the pod, but we do locks of the week for week 7. Any good games, Connor? Any games you're looking forward to?
This week, I'm looking forward to Saints Seahawks. Would have been a lot of fun if everyone was healthy.
That's the Monday night game.
That's the Monday night game. I think Chiefs Titans will be good. That'll be good.
Lions Rams. We got a
Jared Goff revenge game.
Stafford's going to throw for maybe 600 yards.
I wish he was going back to Detroit, but
yeah.
I'm trying to think. Bengals Ravens. I mean, the Ravens at 6 points. That's
I mean, this might be a F word game for the Bengals. I mean, I think they're probably going to lose, but yeah, I'm probably going to bet that one.
I don't know. Colts 49ers is the Sunday night's interesting.
Yeah, just looking at this, Bucks minus 12.5 hosting the Bears. I kind of think the Bears can cover that.
I was kind of thinking that
You think the Bucks can cover that?
No.
After the Eagles game, I would say Bears plus 12.5.
And New England 7 against the Jets after Zach Wilson's performance last week.
Yeah, hammer that for me. Saddest line of the week. Arizona minus 17.5 hosting the Houston Texans.
And the Rams at 15.5.
Yeah, that's a lot of points.
These are college lines.
Yeah, and speaking of which, college football, there are 0 top 25 games this week. So if you got a significant other, this would be the week to go apple picking or get a couple of Halloween costumes or do something not football related on Saturday to buy yourself a weekend. Not that I know anything about that personally, but that's what I've read on the internet.
We can edit this.
People
Aaron
do.
there? Is Aaron there?
Anyways, my lock of the week. I like Colts plus 3.5 at San Fran Sunday night. Go ahead and lock it. They played really well against a bad Texans team, but San Fran's beat up. Kyle Shanahan's pissed a lot of people off this year. I think his record is 31-38-1, I think, as a head coach full time. So, and I think Jimmy G will be starting this game. So Yeah, give me Colts plus 3.5.
How are the Browns 2-point favorites?
I don't know. I don't know if that's updated or not. But Broncos, dude, they started out 3-0, but they played 3 really bad teams.
I'm
So,
gonna go. I don't know. This one feels like cheating.
go ahead. Just say it. Just say
The
it.
Panthers -3.
Against? Who are the Panthers playing, Connor?
The Giants.
And who's your favorite team?
Giants.
Oh, how about that?
Well, Andrew Thomas on IR. Kadarius Toney's going to be out. Galladay's probably not going to play. It'll be ugly. It'll be an ugly football team out on that field.
DJ, got a pick or no? Have fun.
I'm gonna take the Patriots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my second
Yeah,
one.
that's-
Patriots against the Jets.
Just because I mean, the first time of the earlier in the season, I mean, the Patriots got what, like 4 turnovers. I mean, I think that Mac Jones has looked like, I mean, he's made kind of few mistakes. But I mean, they haven't been like that explosive. Like, I don't think that they're gonna I think 7's like a good number. I don't think it's gonna be too far above that, but I can see them, covering 7.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the Jets are going to score more than maybe 10, 13 points. And I think the Patriots can score 3 touchdowns, which would, 3 touchdowns and a field goal they cover. So, yeah. Anyway, man, well, this has been fun. Thank you for joining us. And, best of luck in our leagues. Even though you're a competitor, I will be rooting for you if I don't make the playoffs because you're a good guy and you got a good team. So, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fumbled Out of Bounds podcast. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and let us know what you want to talk about next time.